Nigeria's democracy's fourth republic is a quarter of a century old, but the battle to have it born dates much longer to 1993. From an annulled election to trench wars by activists, some of whom paid the supreme price, the question in 2024 is, does Nigeria's current reality match the cost of acquiring democracy? This conversation will happen in a moment. Please stay with us. Hello everyone, it's a great moment to have you join us today on this conversation that poses the question, has Nigerian democracy come of age? Now, I have a panel of men, all of whom have personal story to tell about the events that led to not the second, third, but the fourth coming of democracy in Nigeria. In no particular order, we have joining us today Barrister Evans Ofeli, who is a lawyer from Rabbi and a well-known face on Nigerian TV. We also have Emeka Madunagu, publisher of Metro Star newspaper, plus Kenneth Kenwa, a management scientist and lecturer at the University of Lagos. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our topic today is to really discuss Nigeria's current democracy, particularly in the Fourth Republic. I like to ask if democracy is working for Africa, Nigeria in particular, where our leaders behave like they're still monarchs, right? And our monarchs are subject to our democratically led, leaders. So we'll start with you, Dr. Kenwa. Behind the scenes, you said that Nigeria's democracy is over 1,000 years, and some of us thought that that was very controversial. We know of democracy pre and post colonialism, right? But Nigeria's democracy 1,000 years, how come?
Okay. Very interesting. So I think if we should put it in perspective, the question we should be asking would be, has modern democracy in Nigeria actually come of age? Which presupposes that we've had democracy before this kind of democracy, or before the kind of democracy that was introduced to us, by the colonial fellows. I do not like to call them masters. Was introduced to us and we internalized it. Okay, so we have a country called Nigeria, a beautiful country that comprises of well over 350 different ethnic groups, people with diverse thoughts, political thoughts, economic thoughts, and cleavages. And I do not want to spotlight any one particular group, but some ethnic groups in Nigeria had practiced some form of democracy. Some had some form of republicanism, all right, before the white man and before the Portuguese, and those people actually came to Nigeria. So the concept of democracy, the concept of organized rule, organized rule, representative rule, has been in Africa, has been in Nigeria for over 1,000 years, and it's not a new concept. So the question we should be asking again, I reiterate, is whether the modern type of democracy we'll have has actually worked or is actually working, and does it fit the context of our prehistoric social culture and social structure as a people. I think that is where we're having the bits and bytes of crisis, and as a country in evolution, I'm sure we would hopefully get to that utopian destination.
Are we really evolving? Are we evolving at all?
We are evolving. Man is a product of evolution. I am not going to go into the debate between the creationist and the evolutionist perspective, but evolution in the sense of moving from one stage to the other. We are moving. We're making some degree of progress. But could we have gotten to a faster destination, a better destination than we are right now? Obviously,
definitely.
Yes. So we should, make the analysis, look at the thesis, antithesis, synthesis of why we are where we are and where we ought to have been and how possibly we could get there.
Okay. Democracy is thought to be government-owned and sponsored by the people, but in 25 years, I'm not sure all of us here accept that Nigerians are the driver's seat of their destiny. What exactly was democracy designed to do? Poverty eradication, civil enlightenment, freedom, or what exactly? Emeka Madunagu, you have been in the fight for democracy as a journalist, a publisher, a public analyst, right? And I say that there's nothing like Nigerian democracy because there's nothing like Nigerian culture where an amalgamated different people, different cultures. So what I want is different from what you want. And we've seen over the years, particularly in the Fourth Republic, that as far as it's my own thief, right? My own thief, it's okay for them to rule rather than lead. But once it becomes your own thief, then I start to have a problem with him. That no, that's not democracy. That's not how to rule. Fourth Republic to you. Is it well fought for? Is it worth all the fights? And are you happy where we are right now?
Wow. Okay, I'll attempt to answer all the questions as quickly as possible. You know, the interesting thing was that I must confess that as at 1998, when Sani Abacha died, the pro-democracy movement just wanted the military to go.
So we weren't ready.
We weren't really ready for democracy. We just wanted the military to go. And that was why when Abacha suddenly died, it was a big shock to the pro-democracy movement. Now, the pro-democracy movement did not have an idea of, okay, worst case scenario, if Abacha drops dead, what do we do?
It wasn't planned.
What the movement had more in mind was the Sovereign National Conference. That whatever happens was the Sovereign National Conference of all ethnicities, of different professional groups, and all of that. But while the debate was raging with different, at different levels, Abacha died. Then the whole thing went into forward gear. Just like moving from gear 2
to gear
4. So within 10 months, the pro-democracy movement had to sort out that, okay, whatever, anyhow it is, let the military just go. And Abdul Salami Abubakar, who became head of state after Abacha, was just willing to say, okay, no problem, I'll sort out, I'll just make things work, anyhow it is. So it was a patchwork. Interestingly, how many of the key pro-democracy figures actually became products of the democracy? You just sprinkling. You can see Chief Gani Fahimi, for instance, who was a key figure, didn't persuade himself to join politics until much later. You had people like Chima Obani, you had different figures, and again, the momentum was more about Abiola, MKO. Then MKO also died. So things happened in quick succession. And then democracy came on May 29, 1999. There were still arguments about, okay, what kind of constitution? So it was a patchwork, just hurried patchwork. Abdul Salami had just assembled some people and they just took some things from the constitution that Abacha already had in mind. They just went to 979 country, just took things. It was a patchwork and then we landed in democracy. Now we can see 25 years now.
Down the line.
Those things, that could have been better planned are the things dogging the progress of democracy today.
Barrister Evans Ufeli. So after 25 years of getting it wrong, right? Of putting round pegs in square holes, complaining, criticizing, how come we're unable to eventually get it right? Because, a child of 25 years is old enough to marry, male or female, right? Our, current Fourth Republic at 25 years. First, I would want you to rate it. There's the controversy of why May 29 in the first instance. Now, Democracy Day is being celebrated on June 12th in commemoration of MK Abiola's sacrifice. There's a controversy around that also. But where we are right now, are we mature as a democratic country?
Well, if you look at the indices of a country under democracy, we do not actually enjoy or have all it takes cumulatively to particularly express democracy. That we have not reached political osmosis by now, meaning that we have not put together a formidable electoral system to start with. So how is our electoral system? How do we go about our electoral system? And how is it that our politicians, every time, they're able to beat the people at the game? Democracy is supposed to emanate from the heart and soul of the masses. And their collective allegiance properly is supposed to reflect on the kind of leaders we should have that should lead them to a place of destination. But when you look at the concepts and the fulcrum, all joints put together, you find out that there's a big disconnect between those who claim to have our allegiance and what they do. Okay? Now, we have leaders ranging from different areas, from across all sections of the country, that have shown us their lack of preparedness. Okay? So, we have not sojourned proper in democracy. We don't even have democracy to start with. Because if you look at the vigor through which we took on our political development from 1922, where we had the Richard Commission of 1922, and we move it down where the elective principle was established. And we voted for the first time, had representation in the House. You know, 2 from Lagos, 1 from Calabar. The vigor, by now, we should have had something better. We experimented up to the Clifford Constitution of 1946 that laid down a semblance of regionalism. We took it there to the Macpherson Constitution of 1951 that gave us this representative democracy, and then to the Liturgy Constitution of 1954, then to the constitutional conferences we had, 53, 57, 1960 Constitution, 1963 Republican Constitution, before the 1979 Constitution, where we transited from parliamentary system of government to presidential system of government, and then before we pulled through to the Fourth Republic. Now we are the Fourth Republic. We are 25 years into it. And that 25 years, you cannot really say that we have democracy both at the regional level and at the center.
Wow.
Why? What we have is actually regional monarchy. If you look at how your governors operate, okay, your governors are emperors, okay? So they only need the people during election. And they need them to mobilize them through stomach infrastructure and the rest of it. After election, they rule over them. Okay, they start to build airports that the people don't need.
Just for themselves.
White elephant projects that does not have any direct impact to the people who actually should be the harbingers of democracy. So what do you call that? It's regional monarchy. It's not. Then when you come to the center, you find your president taking decisions impulsively. You need 200 million people thinking on your feet. You understand? You take out subsidy. Even when you have 1 month grace for what you already had, you took decisions that, you know, when you sit down and actually think about what leadership should, we were taught in leadership school that leadership is your ability to take people from point A to point B, take them from where they are to where they should be.
Not where they want to be.
Not where they want to be. Okay, take them to where they should be, because it's not every time that people yearn for where they should be as against where they are. Okay, even the ones that are visionless and directionless, you take them to where they should be. Oh, Jesus said in the Bible that if the blind lead the blind, they'll both fall into a ditch. What it means, therefore, is that the scripture prescribes that those who have no direction, those who have no foresight, those who have no vision should not lead anyone. That is what that concept is. But here are we, 25 years into it, we don't have a functionable educational system as we speak. We don't have public health care. All the indices that you use to qualify a democratic nation, we don't have it. Access to credit, you don't have. Meritocracy, you don't have. Public health care, you don't have. All these indices that they use to judge countries. Okay, look at the countries that had democracy at the same time. Look at India. India is now an automobile hub in the world, medical destination, okay, in the world, ICT, destination. Now look at Malaysia and those ones. They had the independence around 54, 56, 1960, together with Nigeria at the same time. Where are we exactly? And does our leaders, do they even know that this is shameful? That at the regional level, what we have are people who don't care about the masses. So if we call this democracy, I'm very sorry, the momentum which that is why I say we must force our leaders to act democratic osmosis, where we will find a progression from a place of lower concentration to a place of high concentration in terms of development, political advancement, human capital development, and citizens-driven policies that will enhance what Nigeria should be. In the absence of that, what we have, I'm very sorry.
So under President
a monarchical system.
Babangida in 1985, I remember the song, Nigeria is 25. Arise in celebration, a people united will never fall. So at the time we were begging Andrew not to check out.
Not to check out, yeah.
Yeah? Now, 25 years in democracy in the Fourth Republic, what should the people be doing to ensure that democracy works for Nigeria? Why do I ask that question? Because democracy is government of the people, for the people. But the people are so docile that we keep on waiting, you know, for whatever reasons, be it ethnicity or religion, is my brother that is there today, we just keep on hoping. Because in 2015, we were hoping that President Buhari's second coming, he would be the Messiah. It didn't happen. In 2019, I'm not sure that we really had a choice in that election. INEC decided for us. That's my opinion. In 2023, when the people seem to have a choice, eventually we got where we are. But we're such a docile people that we're not taking... You compared Nigeria to India. I don't think the Indians are sitting back and allowing a few people, a few elites, to decide their livelihood and you know, good governance for them. What ought Nigerians be doing? Dr. Kewa, I will come to you first with this question. Because if we are not playing our role, then we cannot keep on pointing fingers at the leaders. Every human is selfish.
Well, Jumoke, if I'm permitted to call you that.
That's okay.
Well, I'd rather call you Jumi. I have a big sister by the name Jumi. I think I beg to disagree with you.
Okay.
That Nigerians are docile people. Now, when you look at the structure of the Nigerian people, and then you look at the content and the context of this system of rule called democracy, the first thing I want to say is democracy has been weaponized as an instrument for perpetuating the ineptitude, not the docility of the Nigerian people. Not the docility of the Nigerian people. Because if the Nigerian people were docile, they wouldn't even be participating in any form.
Okay.
In democracy, in any form of saying they are coming out for elections. Forget about the figures. Whether 9 million, no. Whether
9 million or 6 million.
But there's this collective attempt by a cohort of elites,
okay,
that have used the instruments of power to, you know, kind of like use democracy, use governance, use the fact that I am qualified to contest, and use other institutions as a weapon to perpetuate the ineptitude, right, of the Nigerian people. And in addition to that, they have made the people very indolent. So it's not a question of docility. Now, what should the Nigerian people do, or what should the people be doing?
Yes, sir.
The first thing that we should address is the question: what is the Nigerian problem? What is the problem with Nigeria?
Poverty.
Like, if you say poverty, Nigeria was far ahead as at 1961, ahead of the UAE, ahead possibly of Malaysia, as at 1961,
France,
when the peoples of the United Arab Emirates we're still struggling and jogging for how to get independence from the British. So the 1962, where the University of Lagos, Yaba, was actually situated in 1962, was more developed than Abu Dhabi of 1961. Because in 1961, you just had one road. And now you go fast forward to about 40, 50 years, Abu Dhabi is in paradise, Abu Dhabi and UAE is in El Dorado, and we are still struggling, still begging for who will come and fill the potholes on our roads, in our big estates that we live in, despite the fact that we pay land tenure and all these rates that we pay. So, yes. So what is the Nigerian problem? How do we define the Nigerian problem? When we can actually give a definition, an answer, to that, and give context to what the Nigerian problem is, we can start perhaps trying to educate the people on what the people should do. Now, take my words, educate the people. Education. How educated are the Nigerian people? How enlightened? How exposed are the Nigerian people? We have a literacy rate. People playing with figure. Data politics is what I'm working on right now. It's a new concept I'm selling to the media. There's so much politics about data. Yeah. Sometimes you hear the unemployment rate was 37%. Somebody came and said it's 4%. The ABS came and said it's 4%. How can you tell me that?
But we knew that was a lie.
Data politics. So at some point in time, I believe that the illiteracy level in Nigeria is about 55%.
They said
some say it has come down to about 40. Right? Data politics. When do we get it right? By the time we learn to start educating the Nigerian people, then the problem with Nigeria, will begin to have some traction in terms of solution.
Okay.
Now, so coming back to the weaponization of democracy, how did all of that start? The first thing is that the democracy that we're operating today, the modern kind of democracy, was not a self-styled, self-incubated democracy that we Nigerians, like the Constitution chooses to lie, we the people of Nigeria. Who are the people of Nigeria? One of the things I expected Mr. Bika to talk about is the fact that we are running a democracy that is scaled on a particular constitutional balance that does not exist in the first place. Now, the military never handed over. The military actually transited. So what we have is not a democracy. What we have is a transitocracy. There was just a transition.
No, but that was 25 years ago.
Well,
but Bola Ahmed Tinubu was never in the military. He's always been a civilian. So now he's Nigeria's president. He hasn't transitioned.
We are operating on and with a constitutional document that was fashioned for us by the military.
Okay, yes, I agree.
And fashioned to protect some people in the military.
So is he protecting them?
Is still, well, it's not a question about we versus them or he versus them. It's a question of it's a melting pot that centers around where we all got it wrong. The Constitution is responsible for where we are, and until we have the nerves, to actually focus on the real problem, then and then alone shall we start getting traction in solving the Nigerian problem. Okay.
Mr. Magnagu, Dr. Kero has challenged you.
Yeah, those were my introductory words. I was not going to.
But I was going to also, aside from responding to him, I was also going to ask, some people said that the parliamentary system was the problem, of Nigeria's democracy, that moving into presidential would help us. Now we are complaining that the presidential system is so expensive. You tell us that we cannot afford 100,000 naira minimum wage. But the elected personnel in office are buying presidential yachts, SUVs, building vice president's lodge with billions.
Having an avalanche of special advisors.
And all sorts of things. Where did we get it wrong, truly?
Yeah, where we got it wrong, actually, was the fact that at the inception of just shortly before the Fourth Republic started, there were three classes of Nigerians. The parasitic elite, which I will identify as the problem of Nigeria. They just keep moving from one dispensation
to the other.
The parasitic elite have benefited from independence on and on. Abacha wanted to transmit into a civilian.
To the extent that five political parties adopted him as their full candidate.
The same parasitic elite who were, in those parties, when Abacha died, they only went back
and reorganize,
in preparation for whatever was coming. The other side was the pro-democracy movement. I just wanted the military to go, but missed the mark. The fact that the military were just one part of the problem. You still had their co-conspirators outside the military who were the ones actually oiling the engine of every dispensation.
Abiola was accused for being part of that.
Abiola was actually one of them.
Okay.
But you see, along the line, well, he sort of fell in love with democracy and began to see himself as a symbol of, actualizing the aspirations of Nigerians.
So was he betrayed if he was one of them?
What do we mean by Abiola was one of them? Really?
No.
We need to give context to that assertion.
He was part of the elite at the time.
Yes.
He only developed compassion.
He was even accused of sponsoring them.
Yes, of course.
He only developed compassion for the poor along the line.
Along the line.
He ordinarily was one of them, but he was also one of those who.
So was he one of them, or was he a beneficiary
of
the system?
All of the above.
Or was he being beneficiated by the system?
All of them. Because when I say the parasitic elite,
yes,
they're the ones who have the seats. They're the ones who have vests. You know who are there at harvest?
They are the ones who fund it.
They just do whatever.
And they're also the ones that Nigeria actually favored. Those ones, as at the time they were in school, they are free education,
tea running from the taps.
Yes, those are the same people who
cars once they graduated.
You can imagine 3 parties at the center of the First Republic: People's Democratic Party, All Nigeria, All People's Party (APP), and the Alliance for Democracy. You know the interesting thing? It was one person who wrote the constitutions of the 3 parties in a car park of INEC in Abuja. Was one person who just.
You have evidence to that effect?
I'm a journalist, so I won't say things. No, please. I won't say things that are not these things. Where things I also witnessed. Okay. It's not about evidence or anything. These are things in the open. Now, these constitutions were horribly put together and submitted because, you see, we just had to meet the deadline.
Okay.
For, the formation of political parties. Along the line, of course, the parasitic elite.
Are you talking about the Fourth Republic? Because I think.
Yes, I said it just shortly before the Central
Fourth Republic started in 1999.
This same parasitic elite, you know what they did? They said, okay, what do we do? All right, the Southwest has been aggrieved by June 12. The same June 12 we're talking about. Okay, well, because these guys are very good at reading. They are very good navigators.
They read the mood.
They read the mood. So they now said, okay, let's look in the direction of the Southwest. Then they didn't see anybody. Okay, Olufalaye came out. Somebody like Bola also showed interest. Some other people showed interest, but they said, no. We have to have a mix between military.
Somebody representing us.
Yes. So what did they do? They now remember that there was somebody in prison whom they had hunted him from the prison, brought him out, cleaned him up, quickly arranged a pardon for him, and made sure somehow or the other he emerged as
our president.
Just president at the center of the Fourth Republic.
Okay.
Now, the pro-democracy movement, like I said, was caught off guard.
Okay.
But the conversation there, when the First Republic came in, among members of that movement, they should have actually pushed some members of the pro-democracy movement into the political mix. But someone said, no, it should have looked as if we were selfish. We were looking for how to be beneficial, like what Doctor was talking about.
Yeah.
We are looking that this fight was basically for us. But you see, the elite, the passive elite wanted that. They love that. They love to make others look like those who are after benefits. Whereas they want you to leave the field for them so they can just keep reaping. And now that is what we've seen. We've seen power games. What we've seen, just power games, soldier go, soldier come, barracks remain. That's why in 25 years, we've not actually defined what we call democracy. All we just had are just, you know.
No, but isn't Nigerians to define democracy? Democracy is government for the people.
Yes, it's the people that should define.
Yes.
What have we had? What have we had?
No, but
Somebody,
I think we're lucky.
We had Obasanjo.
I think
we had in
plutocracy.
2007. No,
Yeah.
in 2007. Don't let me quickly drop it. We had an Obasanjo in 2007 that said the presidential election will be a do or die affair. So, who was he referring to? He wasn't talking to the people. He was talking about those, you know,
the political elite.
the same, all of them.
Then Tinubu now introduced his own recently. That we should take it, grab it, run away.
Run it and snatch it.
Snatch it and run
So
with
now
it.
my thought is this on that. You see, we're even lucky that the democracy group at that time, that none of them even clinched power. We're lucky, very lucky.
Why?
Yes, it's clear. If you, from the run of play and power, people generally fall into three groups. The few that make things happen. The many that watch things happen. And the overwhelming majority of those who have no notion of what happens. Now, you see,
yes.
have you noticed that the pro-democracy, whatever movement, the rest of them, now they've cleaned power now?
Yes.
Have you noticed they are
and
worse?
it's no longer about the masses.
No, have you noticed that they are worse than
the military they fought?
The people they fought.
Yes.
Now that's exactly what happened. If you had read the book Animal Farm, when Jones was managing Animal Farm, he was maltreating the animals, taking them through hard labor. One of the horse, Boxer, for example, will walk 24 hours. In fact, they said that the load that Boxer will carry, all the animals put together, Clover, Napoleon, and the rest of them, cannot lift what only Boxer will carry. But the day Boxer fell ill, he was sold to the knackers. Now, when the pigs gathered one night and had a meeting about how they would dethrone man, in that meeting, they talk about how man have been wicked. Anything that walk on two legs is evil. Anyone that walk on four legs is good. That night, they wrote their own anthem and wrote their own constitution. They wrote the anthem, Beast of England. Beast of England, Beast of Ireland, Beast of every land and claims. Hearken to my future treasure of the golden future time. Sooner or later, that is coming, triumph shall be enthroned. So they decided, wrote their own laws that night, that the next morning, they are going to ensure that they dethrone man. Now, Old Major, the oldest pig in the house, after the meeting, he died that night and has sold the vision to the animals. So what was in their head that morning was the vision that has been implanted in them last night. Jones came in the morning, drunk, hit the door of the manual farm with his leg. He was originally called Manual Farm. It's the animal that they named it Animal Farm. Hit the door, opened and started shouting at the animals to come out for that. The sun is already, you know. The moment he did that, Clover, Benjamin, all of them came out and chased Jones out of the animal farm, threw him away, out of the place. When they took over government, they now wrote their own constitution. You understand? Now, one of the sections of their constitution is that all animals are equal. But some animals
are more equal.
That was a caveat.
That day, the milk that was produced by the cows went up to the pigs. And the other animals, they shared grass for them. The same day they took over power, the next day, what they accused man of,
they started doing.
They now instilled it. They instilled it in the so governance was hellish to the lesser animals in intellect. Only the pigs and the snowball, Napoleon and the rest of them, they became very authoritarian. In fact, it got to a point, the animal farm became a hub of anarchy. Snowball that had, more of like an activist, was thrown out of the animal farm. Benjamin was sold to the knackers. Any animal that fell ill, meaning they didn't have public health care. They didn't have the privileges that even Jones provided. As at the time he was there, he used to bring the vet doctors and all that. They abolished all that, but they don't want to have anything to do with man.
So
they ruined themselves.
So is Nigeria an animal farm?
Let me give you context, because it's an allegory. Yeah? Nigeria is not far away from what's happening in animal farm. Eric Blair, who took the name George Orwell, wrote that book to it's a satire to mock the Russian government. Okay, that the way, even because the book was banned for a stretch of 13 years, it came back after the leaders had left and all that. So, and I am very grateful that book was introduced to me in JSS2. And then when I read it, and I took my dad's book on the Civil War, I read it and I just discovered that
there are similarities here.
These colonial masters that were, yes, it's the same thing. These colonial masters that these people want to finish us and all that, we took over.
And then we became worse than they were.
Yeah, we took over from the colonial masters, established democracy. Then some military guys head by Cardinal Zogo now took over power again from power. And the military now unleashed
themselves onto us.
So it's not different. And from that time till now, we've had. So what I'm trying to establish is that those who yearn to change society, if you give them opportunity to change society, they will make sure that society is grounded on its head.
So is that where we are today?
That's exactly where we are.
Okay.
Yes.
You said that Tinubu was part of the pro-democracy. Yeah, we know that. He did that, the Nadeko and all that.
Yes.
But many of them have been leaders from the National Assembly to State House. Many of them have been governors.
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of governors are people retired into the National Assembly now.
So what have they done now to change the Nigerian situation? What have they done to change the Nigerian situation? To use our crude oil to take loan, mortgage the future of the country? Is that the future of Nigeria? So
you have created a fantastic ground for us to talk about elections, because this Fourth Republic, at least we have changed government 4 or 5 times. 5 times, right?
About four different cycles. Yeah.
Okay.
4 or 5.
So why do the people keep losing? Because after every election, except in maybe 2015, where people were jubilant and then eventually we became disappointed, after every election, the majority of the people seem like, no, we were not the ones who chose this leader. He was foisted on us. Why? Because, if democracy is the government of the people, for the people, why do the people keep losing? Dr. Ikenwa, please help us.
Why will the people continue to lose? Not that why will they keep losing? Why will the Nigerian people continue to lose? And the answers are not far-fetched. They are not too far. It's not esoteric. You don't need rocket science to be able to understand why we, the people, will continue to lose. Now, I love data, in as much as anti-data politics. But my professor who mentored me would always say that figures don't lie, but people tell lies, with figures. And when you look at the literacy level, you will find out that there's a correlation between our rate of literacy in Nigeria and our poverty rate. So the first thing is that poverty has become institutionalized in Nigeria. And where there is this high rate of poverty, there is no way one of the major tenets of democracy, which is freedom of thought, can actually be entrenched. The Nigerian people cannot think for themselves.
Yes,
because they have been mentally, they have been intellectually, they have been psychoculturally, they have been psychospiritually abused, manipulated, degraded, dehumanized. So dehumanized that all you need to convince somebody to vote for you is 2,000 naira and 1 or 2 bags of salt. So dehumanized that a politician will give you the tools and the weapons for you to go and fight for him, whilst his own sons and daughters are away in England or so in Europe, schooling in the best schools abroad. How dehumanized can a single individual be?
Can I pause all of us to say that we all know the problems? Can we start to discuss the solution? Yes, education is one of them. But the people who are using our population for their own selfish interests, who only come to us when they need us for elections to stamp, that, oh, I got elected. They're not going to educate you to the extent that you know your rights and can make the right decisions for yourselves. So what is the Nigerian solution 25 years into the Fourth Republic?
Education is not enough. Education will get you started. You will be able to resist oppression. But can you conquer oppression? So other than education, the Nigerian must be disciplined. People must be holy and disciplined in their poverty. And say, you know what?
I'd rather die in hunger.
You see, we're not going to change
and sell my birthright.
We're not going to change Nigeria by a recitation of scriptures or
a new anthem
or poetry or anthem. We're not going to change Nigeria that. We're going to change Nigeria by sacrifice. If possible, some persons will have to go. There must come a time when there will be a revolution, an unscripted revolution, where everyone will become so dissatisfied that the accumulation of the weight and force of that dissatisfaction will bat a new Nigeria.
We thought the NSAS protest in 2020 was going to be that revolution, but
can there be a revolution without destruction of lives and property?
But no, the NSAS had already given us a definition that we could push that far. The government that empowered them, they were scared.
True.
Had it been they did not send the soldiers, or they sent soldiers and the people overpowered the soldiers, many of them would have left the country.
True.
Some people ran away from it.
Some left the country, and they were answering calls from far distance and all that. So we should be able to have that kind of momentum where we will suppress and repress tribe and all the acculturation of religion and all those things that divide us, and come to define what Nigeria should be for us. There are countries that have done it. We're a Chinese Revolution. We have a lot of, if you go through history and revolution, you'll find that we must come to a point where we define and own Nigeria. If we don't get to that point, allow this kind of political system, regional monarchy and the rest of them, go and check everywhere in the world where people practice a system of government and lie to the people, they are practicing another one. Where the framework of what you are practicing is different from what you define. Confusion. You can never have development.
Okay, Emeka, so Evans mentioned, I want to pose a question to you. He mentioned until we sideline ethnicity, religion, and all of the things that divide us and come together like we did in 2020 with one voice, saying this is what good governance is and this is what we're clamoring for, that where education is not just the solution. Do you agree with me?
For me, I don't even think those things are the problem. Those things are just the symptoms of ethnicity, religion, whatever.
They are the branches.
I think you can situate the key problem of Nigeria in the first line of the revised national anthem.
The current one. The new old one.
Nigeria we held it is a farce.
Hey,
you don't you only you find more or less you hail somebody who looks like a superior to you. Nigeria is us. Nigeria we love thee. I think it's better Nigeria we love thee. Now, when will we get people who love Nigeria? Because a lot of people we've had actually.
What's there to love about Nigeria?
Now I'll get there. Look at 1999. We had two people.
It's our heritage. That's enough.
Yes. We had two people, Obasanjo and Olufalaye, who were actually imperialist agents. Yes. Olufalaye, of course, got sacked now under Babangida. Obasanjo, look at his policies and everything. All just.
Was SAP a bad idea?
It failed.
It was a horrible idea.
It failed.
It was horrible because
we're not saying did it fail or did it succeed.
It failed.
Was SAP a bad idea as a strategy?
It was not supposed to be.
Argentina.
It was supposed to be a bad idea, but it failed.
It didn't work.
Okay, so Emeka thinks that it was a bad idea. You are saying that it failed. So if it succeeded, it would have been a good idea.
No, it wasn't. We didn't even need it.
It didn't
We
work.
didn't need it because it was just an avenue to just look for money, bring and let us share, which is what has been happening. Bring money, go and borrow, bring, let us share.
Okay.
There was no idea.
So the idea possibly was good, but the management and the managers behind the idea
was all wrong because one, it presupposed that unless we took loans from IMF, unless we implemented an economic program,
that was not homegrown. And those were conditions that were imposed. Because SAP in itself was supposed to drive organic growth.
You know what? If you want to borrow money, so you want to do business and you want to go.
The leaders then were not exposed enough to know that it was wrong to devalue the naira.
No, I'm saying that
because the IMF actually asked them to devalue the naira. And we still have the system.
We still
have the naira continues to be devalued and degraded.
The same leaders are still degrading the naira. That's what I said. When we have homegrown Nigerians who think with a Nigerian vision, who think with a Nigerian mindset that what is it that we need to do?
Okay,
I think Nigeria
I'm of the school of thought that if the colonialists did not come, right, if we had grown at our own pace and, you know, interchanged our farm produces, you know, learned our languages across borders without amalgamation, that we would have become scientists.
Yes.
You know, in our indigenous languages.
We were.
Yes.
We had
culture.
Right.
We had enough culture. Yes.
So colonial rule sent us back, right?
In the West, we
have
had
independence for 60, going on 64 years this year, right? Whatever the errors of sending us back to Timbuktu with colonial rule, why are we unable to sit together, right, as different peoples, different cultures, different tongues, and say, this is the Nigerian dream?
You cannot have a Nigerian dream when IMF dictates your economic projection.
When you let me tell
you, you see what you call Google today and the binaries that we have today, they are all product of
IFA, I agree.
Complete scientific issue on binary. Complete one. In my village, they had deities that have forces that would turn Nigeria to Eldorado overnight. Where
are they now?
We have deities. They are locked in that civilization. Because we are listening to the West.
We cannot change them.
Hold on.
They are going psycho-spiritual. They are going psycho-spiritual.
Because we're not ready to legislate them and bring them to the fore.
What do the deities eat?
People are supposed to know. They have body. They are see. If you the day
barista for rabbi, you are gone
spiritual. Why did those deities? Why did they transform Nigeria? That enclave of Nigeria before the British came around.
The British came and said that those things were evil and took them to their museum, and then those things are evil.
Okay, you know what? Let's take a break. Before the barista from rabbi takes us psycho-spiritual or spiritual. We're still examining Nigeria's democracy in the Fourth Republic at 25 years. Please stay with us on 95 TV. We'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back to the Enterprise TV, and today we're discussing Nigeria's Fourth Republic at 25 years. How do we engender citizen participation in politics and governance? Many think it's all over once elections have gone. I'm talking about avenues of holding elected leaders to account. Can citizens sponsor bills, attend public hearings, arrest our National Assembly members who are spending billions, you know, on themselves, and generally just hold every government official accountable for good governance? Emeka Madonado.
Yeah, of course. You see, I find it, you know, I found something, you know, something that happened recently, you know, very strange. I mean, the president naming roads after Shoyinka, Chinua Achebe, J.P. Clark. to me, pardon me, that's a desecration of the values that those men represent. I thought the president should have ordered for 1 million copies, 1 million or 3 million or 5 million copies of the books of Foundation. You can name them, JP Clark,
and distribute it.
Distribute it to Nigerian children.
They won't do that. They won't do that.
Now,
they won't do that.
You want them to educate us?
They will radicalize. They believe that the children will radicalize.
No, you back my point.
Ask yourself why there's no national library in the whole country.
There is a national library.
Where is it?
But
It's
obsolete.
There's one in Jos. It's not one.
The national library is Abuja.
Yeah, I have another one in Yaba.
Yeah, you won't find it.
You know what's funny thing?
You won't find things. You won't find
On
anything.
social media, there was actually a debate about who is better between Soyinka and Achebe. Honestly, I held myself
It's unnecessary.
back from just going all out to just insult people.
No,
Because
so-
when my senior, I'm coming.
But I want to give you a background to
It's
that.
unnecessary.
I want to give you a
I'm not
background.
interested in any background because you know what? Literally thought
It's creativity.
does not go out of existence.
Yeah.
We're not-
Thought continues.
So this
Why are you comparing
competition, the
people?
comparison was not about literary thought. It was about what each of them stood for. The revered Nobel laureate that Wole Soyinka is. Are now standing for what Tinubu is.
So
And they're saying,
Soyinka-
are you standing by your own principles?
No,
you fought for democracy.
look at-
You held the dictators by their balls on a daily. You stood in front of what they call the canisters, pepper sprays and all of that, hot water, and you fought, right, for us to get here. Now, all of a sudden, you said to us, you cannot analyze this Tinubu government until his first year in office. First year in office, we are waiting
That
for Professor Soyinka.
answers what Barrister talked about, the pro-democracy movement themselves over 25 years.
They cannot lead.
Part of the problem, they cannot lead. Look
They
at
cannot
the
lead.
same
So
thing.
that's hence
The
the
same
comparison.
thing happened. No, that comparison was just silly.
No, they want us to just debate.
They took it beyond what they stand for to their works.
Let me do
I think that's what you are saying. They took it to their works.
In Myanmar, Aung San Suu Kyi,
Yes.
Nobel laureate and all of that, but got into power and sort of missed her way. The same thing happened with Robert Mugabe. The same thing happened with Lech Walesa, if you remember.
So absolute power corrupts.
No, the point is that you see, like Barrister said, those who seek change must first of all purge themselves
Of contempt.
of contempt for change. They should not think like law 45 in the 48 laws of power that says preach change, constantly preach change, but do the opposite.
Do the opposite.
Okay,
That's a contradiction.
Dr. Ikenwa.
That's a contradiction.
We're still discussing solutions. And I wanted us to initially identify the Nigerian problem because unless and until we do identify the problems, we cannot, prefer solutions. So now we've identified that lack of education, illiteracy
The
is
P for one.
yes.
The first P.
For the people not being able to think for themselves is a major problem.
I have the second P.
What's the second P?
Yes.
Let's go back to a Nigeria that produce. We have left that Nigeria that produce. We had groundnut pyramid, we had cocoa, we had all this agricultural produce. We were producing.
Okay.
As at the time we were producing, the naira was stronger than the pounds, was stronger than the dollars. Okay, so if we go back to that Nigeria, we still have the
We're
land mass.
producing cows though.
We still have the arable land. We still have everything. Okay, and investment in agriculture is not humongous. You understand? All you need is just little, maybe fertilizer here, get the land, get a workforce, labor is cheap, push, let every state, rather than a state governor being an emperor, a state governor should become an industrialist. Okay, rather than Ogun State selling half of their land to churches, where they gather without academic content, to bombard the heavens with
Prayer.
But they have universities.
so that I'm
We
saying,
pray.
let's give out those land for agricultural purposes.
Okay.
Factories, let's go back to Nigeria that produce. That's the second P that I'm saying.
Sorry, before you
Before you allow him to
let me just add to what you said.
Rolls-Royce was buying alloys from Nigeria, from Kogi State.
Yes.
At the time.
Yes.
Rolls-Royce.
Rolls-Royce.
So that just, adding to what you talked about production.
What's the third
Nigeria
P, Emeka?
produce.
The third P is patriotism.
Are the Nigerian current leaders patriotic?
These people that are defecating on the expressway. These people that are defecating on the expressway. Are they patriotic?
They are
Defacing the environment.
You are asking if they are patriotic.
Yes.
Has the government provided alternatives for them?
No.
Oh, that's not an excuse.
They're not homeless.
That's not an
But
excuse.
you know what?
That's sacrifice.
We are now number one in open defecation all over the world.
Yeah, you go to some places.
What's the price?
You go to some markets and parks. The management of those markets and parks actually came together, put money together,
They do public toilet, yes.
And they charge people for it. It's not government this time. It's the people around there.
And even with the running of those toilets, I can tell you that some of those toilets are not safe.
No, I've used some deliberately. I've used some of these toilets.
And you felt
What do you mean by safe?
But that's a different conversation. The safety of the toilet. The safety of the toilet. You can address that.
I definitely got into one time, as an investigative journalist, just got in. I saw that, well, if they could apply some
disinfectants,
yes, and then water treatment,
manage it better.
Because somebody.
Okay.
Let's continue with the alliteration.
But this conversation,
the
conversation, right, brings up another question, which is that is the Nigerian problem constitutional or attitudinal? Because you can have a perfect constitution if we have the attitude of corruption, where I do not want to go and pay 100 naira for that public toilet. I'd rather hide and defecate in the open. And if there's nobody,
Criminal behavior.
There are no consequences for.
if there's nobody to arrest me,
Nobody's arresting them. I used to arrest before the expressway. I used to arrest, yes, on the expressway. I've arrested on the
citizens
expressway.
arrest.
Yes, you can arrest as a citizen. You can arrest, hand them over to police.
The criminal code.
So will a perfect constitution solve our problem, or we need to change our attitude?
It's an amalgam of both.
Okay.
It's both a constitutional problem and it is an attitudinal problem.
But we have been doing constitutional review, every government, so it hasn't solved anything.
Yeah, we've not just done that, we've even had a confab. I think we had a confab in
2014.
And people are selling the idea now that people are trying to
we have 10 documents already. From
Yes.
So
1957.
it's an amalgam of both. It's both a constitutional problem.
53 too in Ibadan.
But I think the other issue, the other angle to this question should be which one comes first?
Yes.
Or is there a symbiosis?
Is it the
attitude? Is it that we have a constitution that has produced a set of people that we call the government?
Or we have an attitude that produces the wrong constitution?
You know, the examples are the lifestyle that these people that govern the governed are living has created a collective abysmal attitude on the part of the Nigerian people.
True.
Which is more of a response, than what you say is a remote way of or a remote lifestyle, as it were. But this issue of constitution versus attitude still brings us back to the alliteration of P's in looking for the solution. By alliteration, I mean we'll be talking of P.
You were going to tell us the fourth P.
I think the fourth P is that Nigeria is progressing and retrogressing on the wheel of personality cults. That's the fourth P. Our democracy, our militocracy, our churchocracy, our autocracy. Let's take it home now. Revolves around personality cults. And so even when maybe in 2027 people are dissatisfied because I don't know if 1 year, I think we should get to the midterm of the tenure for us to finally decide whether we want to cannibalize on some ground.
We are cannibalized already.
Whether we want to give it the opportunity
to
resurrect. But I think the real issue is that until we individually, each and every one of us, and we are collectively guilty, all of us.
Yeah.
Until we individually deliver ourselves from being members or from being adherents of different personality cults, then and then alone can we begin to galvanize proper political thought that will affect economic thought, that will affect our socio-cultural, thinking, and put us on the proper path of progress?
Okay.
We are not making the needed progress we are supposed to make.
Emeka, I would agree to the extent that Peter Obi in 2023 sold himself as a Nigerian solution
and built a personality cult.
And
yes, we must say it.
Some of us are part of that cult. Some of us are part of that. Hold on, sir.
But I'll be one of the few.
Hold on. He's the fifth piece. Some of us joined that cult.
Thank you very much.
So I am asking you, Emeka, because I'm part of this cult,
proudly,
that cultism in that regard, because Professor Wole Soyinka, when he created cultism in Nigeria, I thought it was the solution.
No, he created
pirates. He said a confraternity.
A confraternity.
Not a cult.
Okay, when he created the pirates,
confraternity,
he thought that it was the solution. So
it was supposed to be a vehicle to the
solution.
So
personality cultism, as Dr. Ike has mentioned,
it's not a totally bad idea.
Okay,
I think it's between the same personality.
It's not a totally bad idea.
Okay.
Let me give you an example of
because I remember of what?
No, not even that. Forget about it. Let me give you an example of China. When Chairman Mao, when Chairman Mao brought his own brand of leadership, people thought it was so fantastic. But he shut the borders and all of that. But people died as a result of that. Now, when the next set of leaders came on board, they decided that no, shutting the borders is not it. We need to be open, we need to reach out to the world, we need to, adapt some things. And that has set China, leapfrogging into the future. So there's nothing wrong with, the China, the Central, Communist Party, is actually a cult, sort of a personality leadership cult. Today, it's no more around Chairman Mao, it's now about party doctrines, So there's nothing wrong with it. But I also look at it that we must take our progress from the past. There are so many things about our history which we ought to teach ourselves, teach our children, which will actually make us realize that, look, we're a nation in progress. We can make things better. Okay. Look at, for instance, I go to Ambrose Campbell, the first highlife musician, produced by Nigeria. Do you know the Beatles, the Beatles, stole from Ambrose Campbell's work? But how many Nigerians know about this? There is even the debate that this popular song, Amazing Grace, this popular Christian song, Amazing Grace, was written by a Nigerian slave.
Yes.
There is a conversation around it.
Yeah,
Paul McCartney also acknowledged
was provided by the slaves, but someone now worded it. One of the Britons worded it.
Paul McCartney actually acknowledged that he stole Fela's instruments after
that was when people now began to challenge them. But up to today, it has not been acknowledged that they to stoop from Ambrose Campbell. Something about it. I was so angry.
Imperialism is a very dangerous thing. It affected us so much. The moment we began to embrace the West and their definition of civilization, now we became not just slaves to them, but we cling on to what we do not understand.
To the extent that we worship God their own way.
Yes, their own way. Yes, even to think in our own languages. We started feeling that it was primitive.
Inferior.
Yes.
So we teach our children
to think in our own
English
languages first before they learn
their own language.
And they took our civilization. Many of the things you call the West today. With the Egyptian hieroglyphics, we talk about Aristotle and the rest of them. Pythagoras studied mathematics in Egypt. That's Africa.
People who believe in Bola Ahmed Tinubu say that he is such a person who finds people, right? So when he was governor of Lagos State, he found people from all over the world, to help him govern. Lagos State. What has gone wrong this time? Is it age?
The man is not who he used to be in the past.
Because Nigeria is not
Age.
Lagos.
Nigeria is not Lagos.
Nigeria is not Lagos. That's one.
Nigeria is not Lagos.
The most infected state in Nigeria.
No,
Is that the Lagos state?
no.
Leadership at the federal level is more complex.
Debt is common to
To all countries.
to America is the
all
highest
countries.
debt. I mean, when it comes to debt, America
It's
is
what you use the money for that is more important.
So what I'm saying is, let's, even from our schools, primary schools, let's begin to introduce the younger ones technologically, like he said. We don't need to introduce them into it. They are the owners of technology. Okay? They are born into the information age. And one thing about the cosmic administration of the universe is that the time you were born, you know, have a role to play in your formation. So that is already settled. Let's look for how to take leadership to these children at the basic level. Introduce history to them. Introduce all the subjects that define leadership.
Civic studies and government in school.
Yes. During your time, okay, the world was not what it is today. The human intelligence hadn't grown to this level.
Okay.
You understand?
Superior
and
argument.
then the level of dissatisfaction was not this sharp. I mean, people are, even children sometimes, when you don't put the Indomie well and you don't put the cereal well, they throw the plate up in protest. Yeah, I'm telling you, in protest. Yes, because they need to have a good life. And that is why we came. We came to this world to have a good life. Anybody that have a contrary view, I'm very sorry. That person want to suffer. So let's have these children trained so that the youth or the Gen Z of now, or those little bit lesser than our age, who are already organizing. During the NSA, we saw the organization.
Yeah.
The way they kept the place neat, the way they organized it, the way they turned out, the way Nigeria was administered. In 8 days, 6 to 8 days, the Nigeria of our dream, we bat it during the NSAS.
Yeah.
When you step into it, somebody will give you a can of beer, somebody will give you a can of drink, will give you a pack of food. When you protest and you collapse, they will take you into medics. There was medics there. We had everything there. There was Indian hemp. There was everything.
And there were thieves there too.
Yeah, there was also immorality ongoing.
Yeah,
everything that keep a society going. We have it there. So this.
What we call immorality, sorry, Italy actually added it as part of their GDP.
No, that is yes.
One of the
No, there's even a book that talked about the 5 things that made Italy. In that book, the third thing there is prostitution. Yeah, that's what made them. So don't judge them by their history. It's what made them. They couldn't have lied to you.
But the affirmation of that doesn't change the fact that prostitution is a moral.
No.
We're not talking about what makes a society a society.
There are actually societies that actually validate this thing.
Yeah, so if we're able to birth a new kind of country that we desire in 8 days within this political chaos,
yes,
then it's possible that Nigeria can change.
Okay.
Cosmos.
Yes.
So thank you very much, gentlemen.
Cosmos.
Barrister Evan Sufeli, lawyer, political analyst. Mr. Emeka Madunago, publisher, Metro Star.
Looking forward to retire.
Political analyst looking forward to retire.
And I want to retire simplified. Nigeria is too much trouble.
And Dr. Kenneth Kenwa, management scientist and lecturer at the University of Lagos. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It has been an enlightening and informative conversation. And to you, the viewer, we say thank you for staying with us thus far. We are very grateful. You can add your comments on our social media. We are at Enterprise TV7 across the board, and we would love to hear from you. Until we see you next time, thanks for staying with us. Bye for now.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.